Hello, concert band. This video is to help you through the song Big Time Operator. So we'll be covering all of Big Time Operator, making sure we understand all the rhythms, all the notes, all of those good things. And at the end, you can go play along with one of the play along tracks on our website. So let's get started. Remember that the first measure is only drums. So drums, you guys need to count your measure. And we have triplets there. So we have groups of 3/8 notes. They have a 3 on top of them to show us that they're together. And that means that we put 3 triplets in one beat. So there's a few different ways we can count this. My favorite is 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3 lolly, 4. Some people like 1 teta, 2 teta, 3 teta, 4. Some people like 1 a, 2 a, 3 a, 4. But I think 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3 lolly, 4 comes out of your mouth a little bit easier, and it's kind of easier to keep track of. So I'll be counting triplets like that. If that confuses you, go ahead and count the way that you learned how to count triplets. Now, once the drums play that first measure, 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3 lolly, 4, then we go right into our swing beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And we are still swinging those 8th notes. So make sure we are not playing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. They have to be swung so it's more interesting and it fits with the song better. Now, let's take a look at the people who have the melody in this section. So that is flutes, clarinet 1, and trumpet. So you guys have the melody here. We're playing a really fun rhythm. We start with our quarter note, rest on beat 2, and then we play and 4 and. So together it's 1 and 4 and 1 and 4 and 1 and 4 and 1, just over and over again until we get to measure 8, and then it's mostly 8 notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1. So we'll go through flutes. If you're having trouble with any of these notes, I made a special flute video for this song where I talk about all of the fun fingerings and everything like that, so go check that one out. Other than that, clarinets, all of these notes look pretty familiar, like they should be, except D sharp. Be careful about D sharp. That is the same note as E flat, so it'll be both thumb keys register and your thumb. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then that bottom far away key, the bottom far away key for that D sharp. Okay, and trumpet's D sharp is second valve only. So let's hear the flutes, clarinet 1, and trumpets try that beginning part. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. Now, if you need to go back and try that again, go ahead. We have as many times as you want. And drums, go ahead and play along for everything. Now, the next part we'll look at is the bass part. If your part says a la string bass, you have the bass line. So we're focusing on playing that like a string bass. So I think it's pretty much, if you're listening to this video, you're probably playing bass if you play this. So we start with B flat, D, F, G, B flat, G, F, D, F. And what we do with this is called a walking bass line. So if you know what a chord is, we're going through and outlining our chords. So those first 2 measures, we're outlining a B flat chord. So we're using B flat, D, F, we're doing a G chord. Interesting. B flat, D, F, G, B flat. So it's a B flat chord with an added G in there. Yeah. And then our next measure, F, G, A natural, 2nd fret A natural, G, F, F, A, and then C. That's 5th fret on your skinny string C. then F, G, A, G, F, F, A, another 5th fret C, 3rd fret B flat, then back down to D, F, G, B flat, G, F, D. So make sure we know that C, that high C on your first ledger line above your bass clef is 5th fret on your skinny string. Let's play through that bass line from measure 2 to measure 10. We'll stop at the first note of measure 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. I made a mistake. I was trying to read at the top of the page and that was not working. Basses, let's try that again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Got to measure 10. So try that as many times as you need. And then we only have one other part left. So if you play the 2nd or 3rd clarinet part, French horn, trombone, baritone, any of those parts, you have something very similar to the melody, the da, da, do, da, do, da, except you don't have those extra 8th notes. Ta, 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 ta. So that's your rhythm. 1, and 1, and then let's make sure that we all know these notes. Trombones, we have a lot of 3rd position A flats and then 2nd position A naturals. Remember, it's only an A flat if somewhere in the measure it has a flat next to an A, because our default is A natural. Baritones, we have a lot of Fs and E flats, tenor sax, Gs and Fs, and clarinet 1, E's and D's, clarinet 2, B flat 1, 2, 3, 1, and B natural 1, 2, 3, 2. So let's try that. I'll play the first clarinet part, which if you are playing, nope, the first clarinet part. If you're playing the alto sax part, this will be your part too. Let's try that. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. And then look at your notes. This is good for everybody. If you have a dot over your note, that is a staccato note. It's short. If you have one of these, an accent over your note, that means we hit it a little bit harder at the front of it. And I think those are all the different kinds of accents we have so far. Let's take a look at measure 10 now. So if you play tenor sax, trombone, or baritone, you have the melody now. Congratulations, how much fun. So we're starting with 2 8th notes in that first measure, 1 and. Then we have that 8th note tied to a half note. So that makes that 2 1/2 beats. We start it on the and of 2. 1 and. And then we're into our next measure, 1 and 4, 1, 2, 3, and. Let's look at just those first 4 measures. So we already looked at measure 1, that's measure 10. Let's try measure 11. We have 2 8th notes, then an 8th rest on beat 2. So our next 2 8th notes tied together start on the and of 2. And then we have an 8th note and a quarter note, and 4. So 1 and 4. And then the third measure, a little bit easier, 1, 2, 3, and remember we have that 8th rest and then 8th note, so that means that our 8th note is on the and. We really need to be counting here because this is called syncopation when we're playing a lot on upbeats instead of downbeats, so when our foot's coming up instead of going down, and that's a lot more tricky to count than just having regular plain quarter notes the whole time. So, then you hold that half note, and then quarter, you have an eighth rest on beat 3, and then and 4, 1 and then we repeat that again, which is the same until measure 17, which we'll talk about in just a second. Let's try that trombone, baritone, tenor sax part from measure 10 all the way to measure 17. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. And then, so that's really good. Our next our next section is exactly the same. So let's try playing that now. That's exactly the same. All right, here's measure 18. 1, 2, 18, ready, go. And then we're at measure 26 for the trombone. So now let's go back and look at some of the other parts. So, for example, if you were looking back at measure 10 and you are playing a low instrument like a bass, you have the same thing that you just played. So we're not going to go back over that because it's exactly the same. But let's have everyone look at measure 17. If you're not playing in the section at measure 10, then you do play at measure 17. So we have to really count our rests, and then when we get there, most of us will have a quarter rest on beat 1, or some of us have a quarter note on beat 1, and then we play a half note that lasts measures 2 or beats 2 and 3, and then a quarter note on beat 4. So double check your notes. Go ahead and check your fingering chart if you need to make sure you know your note. And then we're playing a lot of different notes. So if I'm not playing the same note as you, that's all right. You will be playing your note and I'll play mine. So let's try 17 just for the rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's measure 17. Now if we look at measure 18, we already went over the melody. The bass line is a little bit different. So let's look at the bass line next. So basses and tubas. We have B flat, D, F, G, B flat, G, F, D. Actually, this might be exactly the same. It is. So, basses, you have the same thing again. Congratulations. If you can play it once, you can play it 3 times. Now, let's look at the other part. There's one more part in this song. So, if you play flute, clarinet, alto sax, trumpet, or horn, you have kind of the opposing part. So, you don't have the melody, you don't have the bass line, you just have the second part. So, we have a pretty easy to count rhythm. Rest. 2, 3, and 2, 3, and 2, 4, 2, 3, and 2, 3, and 2, 3, and 2, 3, and 2, 4. Let's try playing from measure 18 to measure 26, and anyone can play along. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. And that is our part at measure 18. So now we're on to measure 26, where things start to get a little bit more interesting. Okay, first of all, basses, your part actually does change this time. So let's start with you. Oh, and before you did have a different note. You had an A. So check measure 25 for 23. Basses, you guys have... Oh, I was looking at the wrong line. Never mind. Basses, you're doing great. Yeah, basses, you guys are playing the same bass line for the whole time. So that's really cool. That gives you more time to work on reading the rhythm in Avengers, and it means that you can just rock out on this bass line. And that's a really good bass line to know because it's just a walking bass line, and you use that all the time in like jazz music and blues music, so that's really cool. Let's take a look at the melody in this section. That's the flutes, clarinet, 1, and trumpet. So if you have 1 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and then you have the melody, and that's those people I just said. So that's the rhythm we have right there. It's not too bad because there's no syncopation. So double check that you know all those note names and that you know how to play all of those, and we'll get started. Remember, clarinet's A sharp is the same thing as B flat, so that's your register key and your teardrop key. And yeah, I think we're ready. Here's 26. 1, 2, trumpets, A sharp is the same as B flat, first valve, and trumpet 2's G sharp is the same as A flat, which is 2 and 3. Here we go, 26 melody. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. There you go. Okay. So make sure you get all those notes, double check it, try again if you need to. There's no shame in trying again. And then now if you play clarinet 2 or 3, tenor sax, trombone, or baritone, you guys have the second part. There's 3 main parts and then drums in this song. So drums, don't think I forgot about you. We're going to go back and check some of your things in just a second. So if you play clarinet 2 or 3, alto sax, trombone or baritone, this is your time. So we're counting this 1 and 3, 1, 2 and 1 and 3, 1, 2 and 1 and 3, 1, 2 and 1 and 1, 3, 1, 2 and. So be careful at the end. Like I missed it. That rhythm at measure 32 changes. So make sure you change the rhythm with it. Let's try starting at measure 26. And let's check these notes really quickly. Clarinet 3s, we have some B flats. Make sure you're doing that 1, 2, 3, 1. And some low A's. Those are 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then B naturals are 1, 2, 3, and your middle finger only. C sharp for clarinet is 1, 2, 3, and that pinky key that's closest to your C key. And A sharp is the same as B flat. So if you need to write any of those, go ahead and do that. Trombones, you have some C sharps. Those are second position C sharps. Some B naturals, fourth position B naturals. Tenor saxes, we have some A sharps. Remember, those are the same as B flats. And D sharps clarinets are the same as E flats. Let's try 26 to 34. Those people. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, so that's your part. And now our last part to add in before we go back and talk about the drums is the alto sax and horn part. So if you're starting with a quarter rest and then you have a dotted half note, this is your part. So saxes and horns, you guys have kind of the cool added bonus part in this section. 1, 2, and 4, ta, and 4, ta, and 4, ta, 1, 2, and. So you'll line up at the very last measure with everyone else, but until then, you're kind of doing your own thing. Double check all of your notes, make sure that you can play them. Remember F sharps, 1, 2, 3, middle finger, and everything else is natural. Let's try that part. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try that one more time since I was trying to turn my page and it didn't work. Here we go. 1, 2, 1 second. There we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so now let's go back and talk about some drum things. So, drums, you didn't think you'd get away that easily? Haha. Okay, so most of the time you guys just have this swing beat, but go back to measure 17. When everyone else lines up with the same rhythm, you're going to line up right with them. So we have to make sure that we're always following along and know exactly what measure we're on, so we know when we get to the measures that are different. For example, on measure 17, you guys have a click or a cymbal hit on 1, and then cymbal and snare drum on 2, and you don't play again until 4, which is just a hit on your snare drum. So click, both, hit. So we have to make sure that we're hitting all of those little fills. You have another one of those at measure 25 where the band does the same thing. Click, both, hit. And it's really important that we're lining up on all of those. Your next kind of different thing isn't until measure 45. And this is the one that most of my drummers get lost at. So the reason that happens is most of our phrases so far have been 8 measures. But from measure 34 to measure 46 is 12 measures. So there are a few added measures in there. There's 4 added measures in there that we have to keep track of. So if you're just kind of playing by ear, you're definitely going to miss that break at measure 44 where we stop playing, and then you're going to be really unsure about when to come in on those triplets. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a lot of different times from measure 34 to 46. And drums, I want you to play with us every single time to make sure you are stopping. And right when you stop, the entire band, except for trombones and baritones, are going to stop with you. So the only people that play that aren't you, or the only people that play when you don't play are the tenor sax, trombone, and baritone. So except for that part, which we're going to work on first, your break should line up with everyone else. And then everyone else has a note that they'll start, except for the horns and the alto saxes, 1 measure before 46 on beat 2, right where you start your 2 lolly, 3 lolly, 4 lolly, and then go it back into your swing beat. So we should all be able to line up. Let's go ahead and work on that next part. So we're going to start with trombone, baritone, and tenor sax. We'll start with your part. This is the closest thing we have to a real melody here, and it's pretty similar to you guys' melody from earlier in the song, so we should be able to play most of it. 1 and 1 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 1 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 1 and 4 and 1 and 3 and then, so what we had was we had the same melody we had from the beginning, and then we repeated the second half again at the end of it. So all the same notes, all the same rhythms we already learned, we're just playing more of it. And then in measure 45, trombones, you guys have gliss written and tenor saxes. So what a gliss is on trombone is you're going to start on that D, and you're going to bring it all the way up to that B flat. So you do that as with a mixture of your lips and your slide. And I'm sure there's a video on our page somewhere that can give you a really good tip on how to do this. So I would go look for that too. Then saxes, you're just going to move your fingers from E all the way up to C, trying to get as many notes that exist, not just random finger bobbles, as many notes that exist in there as possible. So let's try that part, and we're going to start at measure 34. Now forgive me if I stop playing for a measure or two because there is a page turn in my part, but I'll catch back up. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. It wasn't even my best gliss, but trombones can do really, really good glisses. So that's a really cool part for you guys to have. Let's look at our next part now. That'll be our clarinet 2 and 3, alto sax, trumpet, and horn. So you guys have a melody, a rhythm that we've already played. 2, 3, and 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and actually it changes a little bit right there. So that third measure, 1, 2, 3, and 2, 3, and. We get right back into our rhythm in that next measure. And then in measure 34, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 41, we change the rhythm a little bit. 1, 2, and. And then we go back to our same rhythm. Now look at measure 45. If you play alto sax or horn, you're not playing anything there, but if you play second or third clarinet or trumpet, you do play there. The rhythm's really important, and hearing your notes is really important. So we have to make sure we know how to count it. 2, 3, and 4, and 1. And then we have to learn how to play it. So here's the trumpet 1 part. Trumpet 2, you guys, is very similar except for the last note. Here's the clarinet part. So you guys have the same rhythm, it's just slightly different notes. So let's hear those people, so clarinet 2 and 3, alto sax, trumpet, and horn. You guys will start at measure 34, okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 34, ready, play. And we'll stop right there. So there's one more part going on, and drums, I hope you're playing along and making sure you're catching where that break is and where your fill comes in. If you play flute or first clarinet, you guys have this last part. Now, you guys are going from low notes to high notes in this. So let's make sure we know how to play those high notes. If you play flute, when you have that high F that's on top of your third ledger line, it's regular F minus your middle finger on your left hand. So just lift one finger. When you have high E flat, that is the line for your third ledger line. Add your 2 fingers that aren't down. That one uses all your fingers. And high D, we don't, but this is regular D, right? So we're switching to just our pinky for high D on flute. And then C is the same as regular C. For clarinets, you guys are starting on C's and B's, those are normal notes, and then we jump up to a high G. So both thumb keys, 1, 2, 3, down to a high F, add your first finger because it's F natural, E, add your second finger, and then for D, add your third finger. And that should be all the notes that we need to go over. If it's not, go ahead and check your fingering chart, and then we'll try playing. Here's 34 for all of my high flutes and clarinets. 1, oh, we didn't talk about the rhythm. I'm not going to do that to you. This rhythm is kind of tricky because it goes back and forth from quarter notes to eighth notes. So we have a quarter rest first, then we play a quarter note on 2. So how this sounds is 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 4, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 4, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 4. 2, 3, and 1, 2, and. So we have to really, once we learn the rhythm one time, you've pretty much learned the rhythm for every time. So if you want to go ahead and write the rhythm in for your first time, or just really think about where those notes are, either way will work. Let's give 34 a shot. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and I forgot to talk about this trill. So if you have that high F trill, trills are when you go from one note to the note just higher than it. So we're going F to G. But going like this would be really hard. So we're just going to wiggle this finger back here. Just wiggle your thumb. For clarinets, you're trilling G to A, so you're just going to wiggle your third finger, and that's it. Let's try just that trill now. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. All right, and then make sure you come back to that B flat or C for your first note in 46. Now, speaking of measure 46, let's move on to that. I hope drums you were able to catch that break and that fill. Now you're back to that same 1, 2, and 3 swing rhythm until pretty much the end, except the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 measures, which we'll talk about soon. Don't worry. So if you play tenor sax, trombone, or baritone, you still have the melody. Congratulations, you have 6 measures left of the melody. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and. Let's have 46 those people. And drums play along, anyone can play along, but if you have that rhythm, the 1 and 1, then maybe wait until we count through that in just a second. 46, those people. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. And then we'll stop there because we have more to talk about for the end. Next, let's move on to our other people. So, flute, clarinets, all of them, alto sax, trumpet, and horn. You guys have a pretty tricky rhythm because it is on an upbeat. Our first note is on beat 1, then we have a quarter rest on beat 2, an eighth rest on beat 3, so that quarter note is on the and after 3. A lot of people want to play it on the and after 2, but make sure you're not doing that. It is on the and after 3. We really have to count. Let's try playing until the rhythm changes. So it's going to be 6 measures. We're going to play 6 measures. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. And stop. So that's that section. And now, this is our last section at the very end. We go back to a rhythm that we played earlier. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and. So we've already played that rhythm. And we've already played the notes that it happens on. So that one shouldn't be too bad. Now we just have to work out this rhythm at the end. So the last 3 measures are easy. It's just a long note, except if you have a drum part. You're playing those triplets again. We have 2 measures of them. So we're going to count them. 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3 lolly, 4 lolly, 1 lolly, 2 lolly, 3 lolly, 4 lolly, and then we stop on beat 1. So we have to make sure we're paying attention to where we are. Now, for drums, your other rhythms that you have left are going to line up for the most part, except one measure with the band. The only measure that doesn't line up is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 measures before the end. That's just your normal swing beat. But every other measure will line up exactly with the band. So let's try playing these last 7 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 measures to the end. and then we'll be done with our whole song. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. And everyone should have ended exactly with me. Check out the measure 4 from the end. The rhythm there is a little bit tricky. 1 and 4. Let's try 7 measures from the end one more time. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. And we're done. So congratulations, you just made it all the way through Big Time Operator. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll check another one out. Have a great day. Goodbye.